All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty wild. We're talking Buddhism and science. You
Yeah,
know, not two things that you necessarily think would go together,
right.
but we are going to see if maybe evolutionary psychology can back up some of these ancient Buddhist teachings.
Yeah.
We're looking at excerpts from this article from Chikrin,
Yeah.
and they're breaking down this book, Why Buddhism is True, by Robert Wright.
It's really interesting stuff. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, the mystical side of Buddhism. We're really getting down to like the core principles
Right.
and then seeing, how they hold up with science.
Yeah, and one of those core principles being the concept of dukkha,
Yeah.
which can be translated as suffering. But I think suffering, sometimes we hear that and it's like, well, I'm not suffering. I'm not in pain right now.
Right.
But I think a better way to think about it is like this inherent dissatisfaction. There's
Yeah.
always something more we need. Or there's always, I should be doing this or I should be over there or, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. It's that feeling of just never really being content, never really being satisfied.
Right. And so this is where evolutionary psychology comes in.
Exactly.
So how does this all kind of
Yeah.
play together?
Well, so our brains, right, they evolved to prioritize survival.
Right.
And a big part of survival passing on our genes. So the way our brain ensures that happens
Okay.
is through pleasure-seeking behavior.
Okay.
But the catch is those hits of pleasure, they're fleeting.
Right. Yeah.
So, we get a little taste of dopamine and then we want more, we want more, we want more.
It's like that experiment with the monkeys and the juice.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they start to realize that if this light flashes,
Right.
then they're going to get this tasty treat.
Yeah.
But then what they found is over time, the monkeys get more excited about the light flashing than the juice itself.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The anticipation.
They anticipate. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like the anticipation, like the craving, the wanting becomes more powerful than the actual experience of pleasure.
Yeah, they're not even tasting the juice anymore.
Right. Right. And that's a perfect illustration of how our brains are wired,
Right.
to crave,
Yeah.
to seek to never be fully satisfied.
Mhm.
And that brings us right back to dukkha.
Wow.
You see, this drive was great for our ancestors,
Yeah.
when resources were scarce.
Mm.
They needed that constant drive to find food, find shelter, procreate.
Right.
But now we're living in a world of abundance. We have, food readily available, all these things that are designed to trigger those cravings.
Right, like we have the iPhone
Yeah.
that's telling us that we need to, look at it every 5 seconds.
Exactly. And we're constantly bombarded with advertising and marketing and all this stuff that's designed to make us want more.
Right.
So even though we're living in this, world of relative abundance,
Yeah.
we still feel that nagging sense of like, something's missing. I need more.
Yeah, it's like our brains haven't quite caught up to the times.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still working with, caveman brains.
In a way. Yeah, in a way.
And so how do we,
Yeah.
I guess break free from that, or how do we even begin to?
Yeah, that's
Got it.
that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? Yeah, that is the question, right? Like if we are working with these brains that are, wired for craving,
Right.
is there anything we can do to, kind of find some peace?
Right.
And Buddhism actually offers a path. And what's really interesting is that even that path can kind of be understood through a scientific lens as well.
You're talking about meditation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like that's become such a buzzword lately,
Right.
Like you see articles about, Google offering mindfulness training to all their employees. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but is there really something to this, or is this just,
Right.
people closing their eyes and, trying to think about nothing?
Right. Well, it's definitely more than just, closing your eyes and hoping for the best.
Okay.
Especially when we talk about like Vipassana meditation, which is also known as insight meditation.
Okay.
It's not about emptying your mind. It's really about paying attention in a very specific way.
Okay. So how does that work?
So you start by focusing on your breath,
Okay.
just feeling these sensations of each inhale and each exhale.
Okay.
And that's down simple enough, but, thoughts will inevitably pop up. Emotions will try to pull you in different directions.
Oh, yeah.
And the key is to just observe those mental events without judgment,
Oh.
just letting them kind of pass by like clouds in the sky.
I can see how that would be easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I've tried, meditating before, and my brain, it's like a hurricane of thoughts. It's not
Absolutely.
just a couple
It's
clouds.
not a peaceful scene.
No, it's not.
But that's the challenge. And also the beauty of meditation is it really does take practice and consistency.
Right.
The goal isn't necessarily to shut down our thoughts entirely, because that's pretty much impossible.
Right.
But it's to develop a different relationship with them. So we can kind of achieve a mastery on two levels, right?
Okay.
So on the first level, we learn to kind of detach from that overwhelming grip of our emotions.
Okay.
Right? So that we're not so reactive to every little thing that pops up. And then, eventually we might even touch this state of just pure undisturbed awareness.
Wow. Now that's pretty profound.
It is, yeah.
When you think about it. So how does this all relate back to dukkha though?
Right.
Like how does changing how we're relating to our thoughts,
Yeah.
how does that help with this kind of underlying feeling of dissatisfaction that we've been talking about?
Right.
So we've been talking about how meditation can help us relate to our thoughts and emotions differently. But what about like the actual stuff happening around us? The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
How does that all fit in? It feels like we need to unpack this whole form is emptiness idea.
Right. Right. It's a tricky one. Can seem very abstract, but it's actually super insightful once you get it,
Okay.
And it doesn't mean the world isn't real. We're not talking simulation theory here.
Okay. Good to know.
It's more about understanding the meaning, the weight we give things. That's what's empty, ultimately, impermanent.
Okay. So like the difference between seeing a tree versus seeing it as majestic or in the way or whatever story my brain cooks up.
You got it. Tree's just a tree. The form is the thoughts, judgments we layer on top. That's what shapes our experience.
Okay, so how does this form thing play out day to day, though?
Think of it this way. Imagine a chair, right? Just a plain wooden chair.
Okay.
Now imagine it was your grandma's favorite chair. She read you stories in it when you were little.
Oh.
Suddenly, same chair, but loaded with memories.
Right.
Emotions.
Yeah, totally different meaning.
Exactly. The form we give it changes everything.
But we're not choosing to assign all this meaning, are we? It just kind of happens.
Exactly. And get this, our sources say this coloring of reality, it's evolved,
Yeah.
Survival tactic.
Like back in the day.
Our ancestors, they had to judge their environment fast. Is this plant going to kill me? Predator nearby.
High stakes.
Right. Snap judgments, often fueled by emotion, that's what kept them alive. Brain developed shortcuts.
Makes sense, like a built-in alarm system, but...
Super valuable then.
Yeah.
But today, same mechanisms can mess us up. We label things good or bad based on our past, don't even realize we're doing it.
So emptiness is like recognizing those labels, those stories. They're not the objective truth.
Bingo. Our perception, it's often a construction, right?
Yeah.
Shaped by our own experiences, biases, all that baggage from evolution.
Wow, so much for seeing the world clearly. But okay, how's any of this freeing?
Think about it. If we can start to see through those knee-jerk reactions, those judgments,
Yeah.
loosen the grip of that form, it's a whole new way of experiencing the world and ourselves.
Okay.
More clarity, more peace, more freedom, ultimately. So like Buddhism's offering a user manual for the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, thousands of years of practice.
And now science is catching up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Showing us the why, the how behind these ancient truths. Pretty amazing intersection, right?
It really is. We've gone from monkeys and juice to the nature of reality in, 30 minutes?
It's wild.
But that's the beauty of these deep dives, right? We uncover these hidden connections and hopefully walk away with a fresh perspective. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.
Thank you all for listening to today's program. We're very happy to share this interesting content with you. If you like our program, please don't forget to follow our podcast so you won't miss any new episode. At the same time, if you find our program helpful, please feel free to leave us a 5-star rating.